In space, no one wears shoes. The new temps wear slippers. They make the sole out of that adhesive polymer. Grip right or grip tight. It sounds like ripping paper when you lift your foot off the floor. Temps who've been up a while wear socks that snug up against your toes. Breakaways, they go barefoot. And you can't really walk much in space. So they've reinvented their feet to pick up screwdrivers and spoons and stuff. Which is hard, because you lose finer motor control in micro-G. I have this friend, Elena, who would make tomato and cream sandwich with her toes. But she had an operation that turns your big toe into a thumb. I used to kid her that maybe the breakaways were climbing down the evolutionary ladder, not up it. Are we people or chimps? And she would scratch her armpit and hoot. Sure, they have a sense of humor. They're people, after all. They're just unlike any people you know. The thing is, Elena was so limber, she could nibble her own toes. So, can you fix my shoe? Well, how long is that going to take? Can't you just glue the heel back on? I know they're Danya Duran's, but I have a party in half an hour. Okay? What do you think? I'm going to walk around downtown barefoot? I'll wait, except what's with all these lights? It's 2 a.m. You've got this place lit up like noon in Khartoum. How about a little respect for the night? Thanks. What do you say your name was? I'm Cleo. You are you? Jane, honey, a lot of people think about going to space, but you'd be surprised how few actually apply, let alone break away. So how old are you? Oh, no, they like them young. So long as you're over 19. No kids in space. So the stats don't scare you? Not sure, Para, that's for sure. But if you can convince them that you're serious, they will find something for you to do. I mean, they trained me and I was a nobody, a business major. I temped 15 months on Victor Foxtrot. Could never decide whether I loved it or hated it. Still can't. So how could I even think about becoming a breakaway? Everything is loose up there, okay? It makes you come unstuck. The first thing that happens is you get space sick. For like a week, your insides are so scrambled, you try to eat lunch with your cerebellum and write memos with your large intestine. Meanwhile, your face puffs up so you can't find yourself in the mirror anymore. Your sinuses filled with cotton and you're fighting a daily hair mutiny. I made a Backdown right then and there had it not been for Elena. You know, the one with clever toes? Then, when you're totally miserable and empty and disoriented, your brain sorts things out again. And you realize it's all magic. Some astro fairy has enchanted you. Your body's light as a whisper, free as air. I'll tell you the most amazing thing about weightlessness. It doesn't go away. You just keep falling down, up, sideways, whatever. You might bump into something every once in a while, but you never, ever slam into the ground. Extremely sexy, but takes some getting used to. I used to have dreams about gravity. Like here, you have the whole planet hugging you. Up there, it's not just you that's enchanted. It's all your stuff, too. For instance, if you put that brush down, it stays. It doesn't decide to drift across the room and out the window and go visit Elena on B-Deck. So I had this pin. It had been my mother's, a silver dove with a diamond eye. Somehow it had escaped from a locked jewelry box. Turned up 2 months later in a dish of butterscotch pudding. Almost broke Jeff Pfizer's tooth. You got a lot of pudding in space. Oatmeal, stews, sticky foods are easier to eat. Besides, you rarely taste anything other than sweet and salty anyhow. Why do you think I'm babbling? God, I am babbling. Must be the Zentodone. So the woman at the Persona store said it was supposed to be an icebreaker with a flirty edge to it, like Panitol but more sincere. You wouldn't happen to have a reset, would you? Oh, spare me the lecture, honey. I know they don't allow personas in space. Anyway, it's all a bunch of pro-brain propaganda. Personas are temporary, period. When you stop taking the pills, the personas go away and you're back to being your plain old vanilla self again. There's bushels of studies that say so. It's taking a little break from Cleo. Maybe go away for a weekend, maybe a week, maybe a month. But eventually I'll come home. Always have, always will. Look, I don't care what your Jesus puppet says. You can't trust Godware, okay? Look, you're not gonna convince me. I'm not gonna convince you. Truce? Shoes? 4, 5 years? Let's see, I bought them in 36, so 5 years. I had to store them while I was up. You actually get used to walking in spikes. I mean, it's not like I'm gonna run a marathon or climb Mudhorn in them. Elena had all these theories about why spike heels are sexy. Okay, so they're like short-term body mod, and they stress your leg muscles, which kind of makes you look tense, which leads most men to think that you could use some serious screwing. And they push your fanny out like you're making the world an offer, but most importantly, when you're teetering around in spikes, it lets a man know that if he chases you, you're not going to get very far. It's like you're vulnerable, but you're letting the world know that you have chosen to be vulnerable. Not the same in Micro G, of course. She was my mentor, Elena, assigned to teach me how to live in space. I was an edge tech, worked as a germ wrangler at the Edens. Microorganisms. Oh, okay. So you probably think, you put some seeds in the ground and, you give it some water and sunlight and wait a couple of months and then Mother Nature hands you a head of lettuce. Doesn't work like that. Especially not in space. The Edens are synergetic symbiotic ecologies. So your carbo crops, your protein crops, your vitamin crops, they're all fussy about the neighborhood germs. If you don't keep your Chlamydia or Rhizobium in balance, they will rot to compost. Stinky, slimy compost. It's important work and duller than accounting. It wouldn't have been so bad if we could have talked on the job. But CO2 at the Edens at 6%, which is great for the plants, but will kill you if you're not wearing a breather. Elena painted a smile on mine with like 800 teeth. She had lips on hers, puckered like she was ready to be kissed. Alpha, the chicken man, had this plastic beak, only sometimes was switched and confused the hell out of nature lovers. I tell you, the job would have been a lot easier if we could have kept the crew out. But the Edens are designed for recreation as well as food production. On Victor Foxtrot, we had to have sign-ups from 800 to 1600 hours. See, the Edens have lots of open space, and we keep the temps at 8 degrees above the deck nominal, and they're lit 20 hours a day with grow lights and solar mirrors and have big windows. So the crew is floating around, sucking up the view, soaking up photons, communing with life force, shredding foliage, and generally getting in our way. Breakaways, they're the worst. I mean, they adopt plants like they were pets. Is that crazy or what? I mean, a tomato has a lifespan of 3 months before it gets too leggy and stops bearing. I have seen grown men cry because Elena had pulled up their favorite marigold. No. All my plans now are silk. When I backed down, I realized I didn't want anything to do with the day. My family was a bunch of poor nobodies, so we moved to the night when I was 7, so night shifting was like coming home. The fact is, I got too much sun when I was up. The sun is not my friend. So I haven't seen real sunlight in over a year. I make a point of it. I have a day-night timeshare at Lincoln Under. While the sun is shining, I'm asleep or safely cocooned. At dusk, my roomie comes home, and I come out to work and play. Hey, being a mummy to legumes is not what I miss about space. How about you? What turned you into a night owl? Well, maybe you are serious, about breaking away. Oh, sure. Sure, they prefer recruits who have night shifted. Shows them that you have circadian discipline. Elena said something like that once. She said that it's hard to scare someone to death in broad daylight. It isn't just that the daytime is too crowded, it's too tame. Night is edgier, scarier, sexier. You say and do things that wouldn't occur to you at lunchtime. Probably because we don't really belong in the night. In order to survive here, we have to listen to all these old instincts that tell us not to go wandering in the dark so you wouldn't fall off a cliff or get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. Living in the night's got this extra... I don't know. Right. And space is even scarier and sexier. Well, maybe sexy is not the right thing, but you know what I mean. Actually, I think that's what I miss the most about being up there. I was more alive than I ever was before. Maybe too alive. People live fast out there. They know the stats. You kind of remind me of Elena. Must be the eyes. Surely as hell is not the body. If you ever go up, give her a shout. You like her, even though she doesn't wear shoes anymore. Almost a year. I wish we could have talked more, but it's hard. She transferred to Marathon. They're out exploring Saturn's moon. So there's like a 3-hour leg, so it's impossible to have a normal conversation. She sent a few vids, but it hurt too much to watch them. They're all happy chat, nothing important in them. I didn't plan on missing her so much. So, you got any college creds? No difference at all between Harvard and a net school, unless you're some kind of a snob about bricks. That's a hell of a question to ask a perfect stranger. What do I look like, some 3-star slut? Don't make assumptions just because I'm wearing spike heels. For all you know, honey, I could be dating a basketball player and I'm just tired of looking at his navel while we dance. If you're going to judge people by their appearances, hey, you're the one with the machine stigmata. What is that supposed to be, rust or dried blood? Well, you ought to be. Though, actually, that's what everybody wants to know. That and how you go to the bathroom. Truth is, Jane, sex is complicated, like everything else in space. First of all, forget all that stuff about doing it while floating free. It is dangerous, hard work, and no fun. You want to have sex in space? One or both of you gotta be tied down. Most hetero temps use this joy strap. It's this wide elastic band that goes around you and your partner. Helps you stay couple, okay? Even with all the gear, sex can be kind of subtle, as in disappointing. You don't realize how erotic weight is until there isn't any. It's like, do you want to make love to a balloon? Some people do nothing but oral. Helps keep the vectors down. Of course, the breakaways, they have reinvented love, just like everything else. They have this kind of sex where they just don't move. If there's penetration, they just float in place and stare in each other's eyes or some such until they tell each other that it's time to have an orgasm, and then they do. If they're homo, they just touch each other. Elena tried showing me once. I don't know why, it just didn't happen for me. Maybe I was too embarrassed because I was the only one naked. Elena said I would learn eventually that it was part of breaking away. No, I thought I was going to break away. I mean, I stuck it out until the very last possible day. It's hard to explain. When nobody's on Earth, and no offense, Jane, I was one too. When they look up at night, what calls them is the romance of it all. You know, Sheena Steele and Captain Kirk, cowboys and asteroids, the kid stuff, except they don't allow kids in space because of cancer. Then you go up, and once you're done puking, you realize it's all propaganda. Space is boring, and it's indescribably magic at the same time. How can that be? Sometimes I'd be working at an Eden, and I'd look out the window and I'd see Earth blue as a dream. And I'd think of the people down there, 12 billion ants, looking up at the night and wondering what it was like to be me. I could feel their envy, just as sure as I can feel your floor beneath me right now. It's what holds you up in space. You're not an ant. I mean, there are fewer than 20,000 breakaways. You're brave, and you're doomed, and you're different from anyone who had ever lived. Only then your shift ends and it's time to go to the gym and spend 3 hours pumping the ergo rack in a squeeze suit to fight muscle loss in case you decide to back down. I tell you, being a temp is hell. The rack is hard work. If you're not exhausted afterwards, you haven't done it right. And you sweat. God. See, the sweat doesn't run off. It pools in the small of your back and in the crook of your arm and under your chin and just hangs there shivering like an amoeba. And while you're slaving at the rack, Elena's getting work done, or reading, or sleeping, or talking about you with her breakaway pals. They have 3 more hours in their day, see, because they don't ever have to worry about backing down. Then, every 9 weeks, you have to leave what you're doing and go to one of the wheel habitats for a week to readjust your weight. So when you get back to Victor Foxtrot, you get space sick all over again. But you tell yourself it's worth it because it's not just the space you're fighting, it's yourself. I mean, how many people can say that? You have to find out who you are so that you know what to hold on to and what to let go of. Excuse me, I just can't talk about this right now. No, I'll be all right. Only, you don't have a reset. You must have some kind of flash. Oh, well, that'll have to do. I'll tell you what, I'll buy the whole liter off of you. Ooh, ethanol with a pedigree. But a really back down kind of drug, Jane. I mean, it weighs you down too much to bring out of the gravity well. Besides, the flash is about the same as hitting yourself on the head with a bottle. Want a slug? Oh, come on. It's 2:30. Time to start the party. You're making me late, you know. Do me a favor, would you? Pass me those shoes on the shelf there. No, the blue ones. Yes. Beautiful. Real leather, right? Oh, I love leather shoes. They're like faces. You can polish them, but once they get wrinkles, you're stuck with them. Look at my face, okay? See these wrinkles right here in the corner of my eye? Got them working at the Eden. Too much sun. How old do you think I am? 29, but that's okay. I was up 15 months and it only aged me 4 years. Still, my permanent bone loss is less than 8%. And I built my muscles back up, and I only picked up 18 reds, and I'm not half as crazy as I used to be. Hey, I'm a walking advertisement for backing down. So, have I chucked you out of it yet? I didn't mean to, okay? I'd probably go back up if they would have me. Don't plan on it. The wheel habitats are strictly for the tourists. And they cost 10 times as much to build as a micro G can. When you're in one, you're pretty much stuck to the rim the entire time. I mean, you're still getting zapped by cosmic rays and solar X-rays and energetic neutrons. If you're going to risk living in space, you might as well enjoy it. Plus, all the important work gets done by the breakaways. See, that's where you're wrong. It's like Lena used to say, we didn't conquer space. It conquered us. Breakaway, and you're giving up 40, possibly 50 years of your life. And the stats don't lie. 56 is the average. That means some breakaways die even younger. You know? Oh, good for you. Hey, that looks great. Better than new. How much? Does that include the vodka? Well, thanks. Listen, Jane. I'm going to tell you something. A secret they ought to tell everyone before going up. Oh, I'm not. Promise. So anyway, on my breakaway day, Elena calls me into her room and tells me she doesn't think I should do it. That I wouldn't be happy living in space. I'm so stunned, I start crying, which is a very backdown thing to do. And I try to argue, but she's been mentoring for years, so she knows what she's talking about. I mean, only a third break away, but of course you know that. Anyway, it gets strange then. She says, I have something to show you. And then she starts to strip. You see that time when she made love to me, she didn't let me do anything to her. And like I said, she'd kept her clothes on. Breakaways have this thing about showing themselves to temps. I've seen her hands before, and her feet. They look like spiders. And I've seen her face, kissed it even. But now I'm looking at her naked body for the first time. She's 51 years old. She must have been taller than me once, but it's hard to tell because she's got the deep micro G slouch. Her muscles have atrophied and her papery skin looks sprayed onto her bones. She had both her breasts prophylactically removed. I have 40% bone rot, she says. And I'm asked 38 kilos. She shows me the scars from the operation to remove her thyroid and ovaries, the tap on her hip, where they take the monthly biopsy to check for leukemia. Look at me, she says. What do you see? And I start telling her that I've read all the literature and watched all the vids, and I'm prepared for what is going to happen, but she shushes me. Do you think I'm beautiful? She says. And all I can do is stare. I think I am, she says. So do the others. It's our nature, Cleo. This is how the space makes us over. Can you tell me you want this to happen to you? And I couldn't. See, she knew me better than I knew myself. What I wanted was to float forever, to feel special, to stay with her. Maybe I was in love with her. I don't know if that's possible. But being in love with someone is not a good enough reason to break away, especially if the stats tell you that someone will be dead in 5 years. So, I told her she was right and thanked her for everything she had done and got on the shuttle that same day and back down and became another nobody. And she gave up mentoring and went to Saturn. And as soon as we can forget all about one another, we can start living happily ever after. Now, here's the secret, honey. The heart is a muscle, okay? It means it shrinks in space. All the breakaways know this. And now you do too. Anyway, it's been nice talking to you. Sure. Good night.